There's some that believe, and me including, that this mount in the back right here, Jerusalem, is built on Mount Zion.
Forest floor literally started to move, like it was breathing. Turns out, the wind split open right down the middle. But the real shock came after lava began flowing
faster than the aquifer's rate of renewal. When the water disappears, the ground subsides and
blue light streaked upward, then blossomed into a glowing orange ring, hovering
For centuries, the Mount of Olives has stood quietly on the eastern edge of Jerusalem, sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike. But today, something is happening there that has shocked geologists, theologians, and eyewitnesses around the world. The mountain is cracking, and the fractures are forming exactly along the east to west line, described in Zechariah 14:4. The ancient prophecy foretelling that the Mount of Olives would split in two when the Messiah returns. Residents report deep rumbling, strange breathing sounds beneath the ground, even bursts of blue-green light flickering at night. What is happening beneath Jerusalem? Is the prophecy unfolding? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more investigations. Zechariah 14:4 stands as one of the most dramatic prophecies in the entire Old Testament. It declares that in the final days, when the nations gather against Jerusalem, the Messiah will descend upon the Mount of Olives. And at the moment his feet touch the mountain, it will split in two from east to west, forming a massive valley. Many insisted that mountains simply do not behave this way, not without catastrophic tectonic forces capable of reshaping entire regions. Others believed the prophecy referred to a spiritual transformation, not a physical rupture of the earth. But today, as new cracks carve their way across the Mount of Olives, exactly along the east-west axis, this ancient scripture has re-entered global conversation with startling intensity. Modern scholars, archaeologists, and geologists are now facing a reality that earlier generations never imagined. The geography beneath Jerusalem actually makes such a split possible. The region sits directly above the Dead Sea Transform Fault, one of the most active fault systems in the Middle East. This fault line runs in the precise direction Zechariah described, east to west, beneath the heart of Jerusalem, crossing directly under the Mount of Olives and continuing toward the Temple Mount and the sealed Eastern Gate. Only in the past decade have residents, researchers, and drone footage revealed growing fissures emerging across the mountain. The shape, orientation, and progression of these cracks match the prophetic pattern with uncanny precision. Some experts argue that the mountain may be undergoing early-stage gravitational slippage or tectonic tension buildup. Others insist that the cracks indicate surface-level erosion, nothing more. Yet, the combination of widening fissures, increasing micro-earthquakes, underground rumblings, and thermal anomalies has forced many to reconsider old assumptions. Across three independent sources, the videos, transcripts, and modern eyewitness accounts, the same conclusion emerges. The Mount of Olives is behaving unlike any time in recorded history. And what makes this even more remarkable is that the location is not random. This very mountain is, according to Scripture, the prophesied landing site of the Messiah at his second coming. The convergence of prophecy, geological alignment, and real-time activity raises a profound question. Are these events coincidence, or is a divine timetable quietly unfolding beneath the soil of Jerusalem? Eyewitnesses who walk the ancient paths of the mount describe scenes that feel lifted from prophecy itself. Thin, jagged fractures slicing across olive groves, crevices widening slowly over weeks, dust rising where no wind blows. Some report that the cracks appear to pulse, widening subtly at night, then tightening again with daylight, as if the mountain is expanding and contracting like a living organism. These breathing movements have baffled analysts because they do not follow typical seismic rhythms. More disturbing are the phenomena emerging from the fractures. Locals have documented strange sulfur-like smells, metallic odors, even warm bursts of air rising from deep below. In several instances, a faint black smoke has been seen drifting out of narrow openings before disappearing into the wind. No fires were found. No underground construction was reported. The source remains unknown. Nighttime makes these events even more unsettling. Residents of nearby neighborhoods have described hearing low, vibrating hums, sounds one would expect, near volcanic vents or geothermal fissures. Yet no such activity exists in this region. Others speak of soft crackling beneath the soil, like stones grinding together in slow motion, and on multiple nights, witnesses captured flashes of dim blue-green light flickering inside the gaps. Scientists propose piezoelectric discharge light produced when quartz is compressed under stress, but even this does not fully account for the frequency or the clarity of the sightings. What simultaneously fascinates and unnerves observers is that these cracks do not curve randomly or follow the chaotic shapes typical of erosion. Instead, they behave as though guided along an invisible line, a direct east-to-west trajectory. The same pathway Zechariah predicted would open into a great valley when the Messiah descends. The prophecy is not merely echoed, it is traced across the earth itself. Stay with this investigation, because in the next part, the mysterious sounds and night tremors beneath Jerusalem reveal even more than the cracks themselves. Long before the cracks became visible to the naked eye, something subtler began disturbing the quiet rhythms of life around the Mount of Olives. It started with faint vibrations, barely detectable tremors that residents initially dismissed as construction noise or distant traffic. But as months passed, the tremors gained character, becoming slower, deeper, and strangely patterned. People began describing them not as earthquakes, but as rhythms, as if the ground carried its own pulse. The mountain seemed to possess a heartbeat. What unsettled locals most was the timing. These movements intensified after sunset. Families speaking over dinner would suddenly fall silent as a low, resonant hum passed beneath their homes. Glasses would tremble, wooden door frames would creak. Pets reacted first, dogs barking at nothing, cats fleeing outdoors, horses in nearby stables stamping nervously against the floor. Those who ventured near the mountain at night report an entirely different atmosphere. The usual tranquility of olive trees swaying in the wind had been replaced by a sensation of pressure, an unseen weight suspended in the air. Some described it as standing beside a massive machine turning beneath the earth, each rotation followed by a faint, gritty shudder. Then came the noises. At first, muted and indistinct. A distant thumping, like someone dragging a heavy object underground. Later, sharper sounds emerged, brief but unmistakable. A deep, throbbing the scrape of stone upon stone, and at times a soft crackling, like embers shifting in a dying fire. Residents living closest claimed that if they placed their ear to the ground, they could hear layers of movement inside the earth, as though multiple sources were active at once. A few rare nights produced something even more baffling. Flashes of pale blue or green light flickering from within the fissures. Witnesses described the glow as momentary, like the blink of an eye. The light made no sound, left no scorch marks, and offered no clear explanation. It appeared and vanished without pattern, but always accompanied by a brief spike in vibration felt more than heard. Some scientists propose piezoelectric effects, created when stressed quartz releases electrical energy. Others suggest trapped gases igniting momentarily under pressure. Yet these theories fail to address the broader phenomenon. Why the sounds follow rhythmic intervals, why the tremors behave like breathing cycles, and why the experiences grow stronger toward the eastern ridge, the precise direction of Zechariah's ancient words. The mountain's behavior does not resemble a geological event unfolding in isolation. It feels coordinated, as though multiple subterranean processes have begun operating with a singular, emerging purpose. For many living nearby, the sense is unmistakable. The Mount of Olives is no longer silent. It is awakening. What has drawn even greater attention than the tremors beneath Jerusalem is the strange behavior of the Eastern Gate, also known as the Golden Gate, the one entrance facing directly toward the Mount of Olives, the very gate through which the Messiah is prophesied to enter at his return. Sealed for nearly 500 years, its massive stones were meant to remain immovable, untouched by time or human intervention. Yet, in recent years, the gate has begun displaying subtle but unmistakable signs of movement. Engineers conducting surveys around the old city walls have detected minute shifts measured in millimeters, but shifts nonetheless within the gate's upper stones. To a casual observer, the structure looks unchanged, but high-resolution scanners reveal small separations forming between blocks that had long been perfectly aligned. These are not cracks caused by age. They are directional displacements, following the same east-west stress pattern recorded across the city. On days when microquakes ripple through Jerusalem, witnesses report thin streams of dust drifting down the face of the sealed archway, as if the stones inside are grinding ever so slightly against one another. The dust appears suddenly, then disperses into the wind. Several on-site workers say they have heard brief metallic clinks, like the faint sound of stone tapping iron from deep within the sealed entrance. The source remains unidentified. Archaeologists note that the Eastern Gate is unique among Jerusalem's gates. Beneath it lies a complex of ancient passages, tombs, and foundational chambers predating the current Ottoman structure. Because of this layered architecture, even a small internal shift can trigger dust release or acoustic echoes. But what makes the phenomenon unusual is its timing. The dust falls, and stones shift most often during east-west seismic waves, precisely those connected to the Dead Sea Transform Fault. The symbolism is impossible to ignore. According to prophecy, the Eastern Gate will open again only at the moment the Messiah appears. Its closure was intended to prevent that event. Its unsealing, if ever triggered by geological force, would carry immense religious significance. Scholars, both secular and religious, quietly admit that if the tremors continue to intensify beneath this gate, its ancient seal could weaken further. The idea that the Mount of Olives trembles from below while the Eastern Gate loosens from above has unsettled even those who dismiss prophecy. 2 points, one mountain, one gate, long linked in Scripture, now responding to the same invisible pressures. In a city where stone remembers everything, even the smallest movement of the Eastern Gate feels less like erosion and more like a message. Something beneath Jerusalem is shifting physically, symbolically, and perhaps prophetically. Long before international media began paying attention to the cracks on the Mount of Olives, Israeli authorities had already shifted their posture around the ancient ridge. A few new security posts, extra patrols, occasional road closures attributed to infrastructure checks. Yet residents who had lived in the area for decades sensed something different. The mountain was being watched. In recent years, the Israeli government has expanded these measures into a full, layered security network. Sensors were buried discreetly across the slopes, capable of detecting micro-movement beneath the soil. Some measure vibration, others track heat signatures or underground void formation. Technicians service them at odd hours, often working in silence, as though the purpose of each device is not meant to be questioned. A number of these sensors sit directly above the east-west fissures now carving through the ridge. Drones became a regular presence shortly after. Small, unmarked units glide across the night sky with no audible buzz, sweeping the mountain's surface with narrow beams of infrared. Residents note that the drones rarely wander, They trace the same paths again and again, as if instructed to monitor specific points where the ground has shown signs of instability. The consistent flight pattern suggests a pre-mapped grid tied to seismic readings, an intentional, ongoing assessment rather than routine surveillance.